March doesn't wait. Right now, as you're watching this, there is a planting window opening, one that only comes around once a year. A window so specific, so tied to soil temperature and daylight hours, that the farmers who know about it are already moving. Quietly. Deliberately. While everyone else is still planning. And here's what they're not planting: tomatoes, peppers, and the same tired crops that fill every backyard garden and sell for pennies. They're planting 15 specific crops. Crops that most gardeners walk right past. Crops that command prices at farmers' markets that will make your jaw drop. Crops that restaurants are desperate for, that health food stores can never keep stocked, and that your neighbors have almost certainly never even considered growing. A single well-planted bed of some of these crops can generate more income in one season than most people believe is possible from a backyard. We're talking crops that sell for $15, $20, even $40 a pound, not because they're exotic or impossible to grow, but simply because almost nobody knows to plant them. These are the 15 high-profit crops you must get in the ground this March, before the window closes and you're waiting another full year. And you need to stay until the very end. Because crop number 15 is so overlooked, so undervalued by the average grower, that once word gets out, the market fills fast. But before we start, if you want a garden that practically takes care of itself, then you'll love my new ebook, The Lazy Gardener's 30-Minute Garden. It shows you how to grow more food and flowers using simple daily habits that take just 30 minutes a day. Click the link in the description below to grab your copy and start building a low-maintenance garden today. Before we get into the list, I want to take just a moment, because if you're new here, you need to know who you're learning from and why this channel exists. This isn't a hobby gardening channel. This isn't about pretty raised beds and aesthetic Instagram harvests. This channel exists for one reason: to show you that the soil you're standing on is worth far more than you've been told. That a quarter acre, a backyard, even a few dedicated beds, managed with the right knowledge, can produce real income. Life-changing income. The kind that pays off debt, funds a family, and builds something that lasts. We've spent years in the field. Testing crops. Tracking market prices. Talking to farmers, market vendors, restaurant buyers, and small-scale growers who've quietly built six-figure operations from land that most people would consider too small to matter. And what we've found, over and over again, is the same truth: it's never about how much land you have. It's always about what you choose to plant on it. The growers who struggle plant what everyone else plants. They chase tomatoes and cucumbers and squash, crops so common, so oversupplied, that prices have been driven into the ground. They work hard all season and walk away with just enough to cover their seeds and soil amendments. The growers who thrive? They plant differently. They think about demand before they think about what's easy. They ask, what do restaurants actually need? What do health-conscious buyers actually pay a premium for? What is consistently sold out at the farmer's market before 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning? That's exactly what this list is built on. Every single crop you're about to see was chosen based on 3 criteria. First, high market demand. These are crops that buyers are actively looking for and frequently cannot find locally. Second, strong profit margins. We're talking crops that sell for multiples of what common vegetables fetch, often with lower input costs. And third, March planting advantage. Each of these crops has a specific reason why starting them now, in March, gives you a measurable head start over growers who wait until the ground fully warms. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we publish content built specifically for growers who want their garden to produce more than just food. We want it to produce freedom. And if you stay until the end of this video, all the way to crop number 15, you're going to understand why the most profitable growers in this niche guard that particular crop like a trade secret. We're covering all 15 today. Let's start with number 1. Crop number 1. Radishes. Radishes are the most underestimated cash crop a beginner gardener can plant in March, and that is precisely why they belong at the start of this list. Now, before you skip ahead thinking you already know everything about radishes, stay with me. Because most people who grow radishes are growing them completely wrong. They're treating them like a filler crop. A gap plant. Something to tuck in between the real vegetables while they wait for something more exciting to come up. And because of that thinking, they're leaving serious money on the table. Here's what the farmers market growers know that backyard gardeners don't: radishes are not one crop. They are an entire product category. You have your classic cherry bell, small, round, fire red, the one most people picture. That's the grocery store radish. That's the commodity. Don't grow that one and expect to get paid well for it. But grow a French breakfast radish, long, elegant, mild, with that distinctive white tip, and suddenly you have something that chefs order by the bundle. Grow a watermelon radish, and you have a crop so visually stunning, so shockingly beautiful when sliced open to reveal that brilliant magenta interior, that people stop dead at your farmer's market table and reach for their wallet before they've even asked the price. That's the shift. From commodity to specialty. And March is the perfect time to make it. Why March matters for radishes specifically. Radishes are cool season crops. They thrive in the exact soil conditions that March delivers. Soil temperatures between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit are their sweet spot. Push them into warm summer soil and they bolt almost immediately, turning woody, bitter, and unsellable. But plant them now, in March, and you get the slow, steady growth that produces the most flavorful, most market-worthy roots of the entire year. The Cherry Bell variety will be ready to harvest in as few as 22 days from seeding. 22 days. That is one of the fastest seed-to-sale turnarounds of any vegetable you can grow. For a market grower, that speed is not a small detail, it is a cash flow strategy. While you're waiting 90 days for your first tomato, your radish bed has already turned over 3 times. The mechanism behind the value. Specialty radishes, particularly watermelon, French breakfast, and black Spanish varieties, have seen a significant surge in demand from the restaurant industry over the last decade. Farm-to-table chefs use them as garnishes, in raw preparations, in fermented sides, and as centerpiece ingredients in dishes where the visual presentation is part of the experience. A single watermelon radish, sliced thin on a mandoline, becomes a plate that gets photographed and posted online. That kind of visual appeal drives restaurant demand in a way that a plain red radish simply never will. And here's the fact that most people don't know: specialty radishes at farmers markets regularly sell for $3 to $5 per bunch. A single 4-foot row, direct seeded and properly thinned, can yield 30 to 40 bunches per harvest cycle. Run the numbers. That's one row. In 22 to 45 days depending on variety. The practical growing note. For March planting, direct seed into loose, well-draining soil. Do not start radishes in trays, they hate transplanting. Sow seeds half an inch deep, 1 inch apart, and thin to 2 inches once seedlings emerge. If you skip thinning, your roots will be small, misshapen, and difficult to sell. Thinning is the single step most beginner growers skip, and it is the single biggest reason their radishes disappoint them. Water consistently but do not overwater. Uneven moisture is what causes radishes to crack, and a cracked radish is an unsellable radish. Mulch lightly to hold soil moisture and regulate temperature, and you'll have almost nothing to do until harvest day. For watermelon radishes specifically, give them 60 to 70 days. They are slower than other varieties, but the payoff in market price more than compensates for the wait. Plant your cherry bells and French breakfast varieties first for quick early-season cash flow, and succession plant your watermelon radishes 2 weeks behind them for the premium harvest. The market demand signal. Specialty radish sales have grown steadily alongside the broader consumer shift toward whole foods, fermented vegetables, and restaurant-quality home cooking. Grocery stores in mid to large markets now regularly stock French breakfast and watermelon varieties at premium prices, which means consumer awareness is already being built for you. By the time a customer reaches your farmer's market table, they've already seen that variety in Whole Foods for $4.99 a bunch. Your fresh, locally grown version, harvested that morning, sells itself. Food co-ops, local restaurants, and meal kit suppliers are also increasingly sourcing specialty radishes directly from small growers. If you build a consistent supply, you build a relationship. And a relationship with one restaurant that orders weekly is worth more than 21-time farmers market sales. The closing value bridge. Radishes are on this list not because they are the most profitable crop, they are not. They are here because they are the entry point. They are how you start building cash flow in March while your higher value crops are still getting established. They teach you market discipline, succession planting, and the difference between growing for yield and growing for sale. Every skill you develop with radishes will make you better at everything else on this list. And speaking of what's coming next, crop number 2 is where things start to get genuinely interesting. Because this one sells for prices that most people assume are reserved for exotic imports, and it grows like a weed right here in your own backyard. Crop number 2. Wasabi arugula. Wasabi arugula is one of the fastest cash per square foot crops you can put in the ground this March. Unlike standard arugula, this variety carries a sharp, peppery heat that chefs specifically seek out and are willing to pay a serious premium to get. It grows to harvest in as little as 21 days, meaning you can turn multiple cuts from a single planting across one season. The mechanism is simple: it thrives in the cool soil of early spring, bolts slowly compared to other greens, and delivers consistent, harvestable leaves week after week. What most growers don't know is that wasabi arugula commands anywhere from $18 to $24 per pound at specialty markets, 3 to 4 times what standard salad greens fetch. Start it directly in the ground now, in rows spaced just 6 inches apart, in full sun or partial shade. Water consistently and you'll see germination in 5 to 7 days. Right now, farm-to-table restaurants are actively hunting local suppliers for exactly this crop, and most of them are finding nobody. If you can supply it, you own that relationship. And once a chef finds a grower they trust, they come back every single week. Crop number 3. Shiso. Shiso is the most criminally underplanted herb in North America, and the growers who figured that out first are quietly making a fortune. This Japanese herb, with its bold, complex flavor sitting somewhere between basil, mint, and anise, is a non-negotiable ingredient in Japanese cuisine and has exploded in demand across Korean, Vietnamese, and fusion restaurants over the last 5 years. Here's the part that matters: the wholesale price for fresh shiso leaves runs between $20 and $30 per pound, and most American growers simply aren't producing it at scale. March is exactly the right moment to start shiso indoors. It needs warm soil to germinate, around 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and transplants beautifully once nighttime temperatures stabilize. One unexpected fact that most people don't realize: shiso is a prolific self-seeder. Plant it once, manage it correctly, and it returns year after year with almost zero input from you. The demand signal is unmistakable. Searches for shiso on restaurant supply platforms have increased by over 200% in the past 3 years. Get it in the ground this month, and you will be harvesting into late summer with buyers already lined up. Crop number 4. Ground cherries. Ground cherries are one of the best-kept secrets in high-profit market gardening, and the growers who know it are not talking. These small, golden fruits wrapped in a papery husk carry a flavor that stops people mid-bite: sweet, tropical, a hint of vanilla, with a texture unlike anything else in the produce aisle. That novelty is exactly what drives their value. At farmers' markets, ground cherries regularly sell for $6 to $8 per half pint, and they sell out every time. The reason March matters for ground cherries is that they have a long growing season, 70 to 80 days from transplant, which means if you don't start them indoors right now, you lose weeks of production at the back end of summer when prices peak. Start seeds at 70 to 75 degrees indoors, transplant after last frost, and give them full sun with well-draining soil. Here's the rare fact: ground cherries store inside their husks for weeks at room temperature, meaning almost zero post-harvest loss compared to soft fruits. For market gardeners, that shelf stability is worth as much as the price per pint. Consumer interest in heirloom and unusual produce has never been higher, and ground cherries are sitting right at the intersection of that trend. Once a customer tries one, they come back looking for you specifically. Crop number 5. Lemon basil. Lemon basil is not just a variety, it is a premium market category of its own, and it is massively undersupplied. While every farmer's market is drowning in Genovese basil, lemon basil carries a bright, citrus-forward aroma that commands a completely separate buyer. Cocktail bars, pastry chefs, specialty tea producers, and high-end home cooks who know exactly what they want and will pay to get it. Fresh bunches at market sell for $4 to $6 each, and the production cost is nearly identical to standard basil. The mechanism that makes this so valuable right now is simple supply and demand. Most growers default to what they know, leaving the lemon basil market almost entirely open. Start seeds indoors in March at 65 to 70 degrees, transplant after frost, and space plants 10 to 12 inches apart in full sun. Pinch early and often to prevent bolting and maximize leaf yield per plant. One detail that elevates lemon basil above nearly every other herb: it dries beautifully, meaning any surplus that doesn't sell fresh can be dried and sold as a culinary herb at an even higher margin. The specialty herb market is projected to grow significantly through 2027, driven by home cooking trends and craft beverage culture. Lemon basil sits right at that intersection, and the window to plant it is open right now. All right, pause for a second. If you've made it this far, I want you to know something. You are not the average gardener. The average gardener clicked off after the first 2 crops and went back to planning their tomato beds. But you're still here, and that tells me you understand something most people don't. This is not about growing food. This is about growing income. And before we get into the second half of this list, which is where things get really serious, I need to remind you of something I said at the beginning. Crop number 15. I've been saving it deliberately. Because out of everything on this list, it is the single most overlooked, most underpriced, most in-demand crop that almost no backyard grower is touching right now. Restaurants are hunting for it. Specialty grocers are paying premium prices for consistent supply. And the farmers who figured it out quietly years ago, they're not talking about it. You need to stay until the end. Don't skip ahead. The context of how to grow it, when to plant it in March, and exactly how to position it for maximum profit, all of that matters. Trust the process. Now, here's an insider insight that most gardening channels will never tell you. The crops that make the most money are almost never the crops that get the most attention online. The viral garden content, the giant pumpkins, the rainbow carrots, the Instagram-worthy raised beds, that content gets views. But it doesn't get paid. The crops on the second half of this list don't photograph well. They don't trend on Pinterest. But chefs know their names. Specialty buyers have them on standing order lists. And the growers supplying them are building quiet, consistent income streams that have nothing to do with luck and everything to do with timing. March timing, specifically. Because here's what the seed catalogs don't tell you, and what most gardening advice completely ignores. Many of the highest profit specialty crops have a narrow cold soil establishment window. They need those early March temperatures to trigger germination correctly. Try to plant them in April or May, when everyone else finally gets around to it, and you'll get a fraction of the yield, a fraction of the flavor profile that buyers are paying for, and you'll miss the early season premium pricing window entirely. The growers who plant in March aren't just ahead of the season. They're ahead of the market. You're still in that window right now. But it will not stay open much longer. If this channel is giving you real, actionable growing knowledge, not fluff, not filler, hit subscribe. Because what's coming in the second half of this list is where the real profit is buried. Let's keep going. If you're tired of spending hours in the garden, pulling weeds, and constantly watering plants, I created something just for you. My ebook, The Lazy Gardener's 30-Minute Garden, shows you simple systems that make gardening easier, smarter, and way less work. Just click the link in the description below and download your copy today. Crop number 6. Shiso. Shiso is the herb that high-end Japanese and fusion restaurants are quietly paying a premium for, and almost no backyard grower is supplying it. This leafy annual comes in red and green varieties and delivers a flavor profile that sits somewhere between basil, mint, and anise, completely irreplaceable in the kitchen. Chefs use it for everything from sashimi garnish to cocktail infusions, and they cannot get enough of it locally. A single plant produces prolifically all season long, and a small 4x8 bed can yield pounds of harvestable leaves every week. It grows fast in March-started conditions and asks for very little. Farmers market customers who discover it become repeat buyers every single week. The demand is there. The supply is almost non-existent. That is your opportunity. Crop number 7. Purslane. Purslane is one of the most nutritious plants on earth, and most gardeners rip it out as a weed. Omega-3 fatty acids. Antioxidants. More nutritional density per ounce than almost any leafy green you can name. Nutritionists know it. Specialty grocers are starting to stock it. And the handful of farmers who are intentionally growing and selling it are charging $8 to $12 per small bunch at market for something that practically grows itself. Start it in March and it establishes fast, spreading into a low, productive mat of thick, succulent leaves. The key is getting it to market before your customers discover it's the same plant they've been pulling from their driveways. When they do, they'll be back every week. Crop number 8. Lemon balm. Lemon balm is the quiet workhorse of the herb garden, and one of the most underrated cash crops available to small growers. The wellness market has exploded around it. Teas, tinctures, sleep supplements, stress relief products, lemon balm is in all of them, and the demand for fresh, organically grown bunches has never been higher. It's cold hardy, which makes it a perfect March starter. It comes back year after year once established. And here's the part most growers miss: dried lemon balm sells at an even higher margin than fresh, meaning you can extend your income window well beyond the growing season. Plant it once in March and it will pay you back for years. Crop number 9. Sorrel. Sorrel is a perennial green with a sharp, lemony bite that chefs have been rediscovering for the past decade, and the supply has never caught up with the demand. French cuisine has used it for centuries. Modern farm-to-table restaurants are now putting it on menus as a featured ingredient, not just a garnish. It's one of the first greens ready to harvest in spring, which means a March planting gets you to market faster than almost anything else on this list. Once established, it regrows after every cutting without replanting. The flavor is distinctive enough that customers can't substitute it, which means once a chef finds your sorrel, they come back to you and only you, season after season. Crop number 10. Specialty lettuce mixes. This is not grocery store lettuce. We are talking about hand-mixed, visually stunning, cut-and-come-again blends, deep reds, speckled greens, frilly edges, colors that no plastic clamshell can replicate. Restaurants pay $18 to $25 per pound for premium specialty mix sourced from local growers. March is the perfect month to direct sow under a simple low tunnel, giving you harvests in as little as 30 days. And the cut-and-come-again nature of loose-leaf varieties means one planting feeds you multiple harvests across the entire spring season. The visual appeal alone closes the sale at market before the customer even asks the price. Grow it beautiful, and it sells itself. Crop number 11. Lovage. Lovage tastes exactly like celery, but grows 5 times easier, 5 times larger, and 5 times more productively than celery ever will. It's a perennial. It comes back every year from the same root. The leaves, seeds, and stems are all usable and all sellable. Chefs who discover it treat it like gold because celery flavor without celery's finicky growing demands is genuinely rare. Farmers market customers with a single taste become loyal buyers. March is the ideal time to start transplants, getting lovage established before summer heat. Most people at your market will have never heard of it, which means you control the narrative, the price, and the demand. Crop number 12. Tulsi, holy basil. Tulsi is not just an herb. In Ayurvedic tradition, it is considered one of the most sacred and medicinally powerful plants in existence. The wellness industry has caught up to what ancient cultures knew thousands of years ago, and now Tulsi teas, adaptogen blends, and stress relief supplements line the shelves of every health food store in the country. Fresh Tulsi bunches sell at premium prices to customers who understand its value, and those customers are evangelical about it. They tell their friends, they come back weekly, and they are deeply loyal to the grower they trust. Start it indoors in March and transplant after last frost for a full, abundant summer harvest. Crop number 13. Groundnut, Apios americana. Here is a crop that almost nobody is growing commercially, and that is precisely why it belongs on this list. Groundnut is a native North American plant that produces edible tubers with a protein content higher than potatoes and a nutty, rich flavor that chefs find extraordinary. Indigenous peoples relied on it for centuries. Modern foragers and food historians are bringing it back. The market for rare, native edibles at high-end restaurants and specialty stores is growing fast, and the growers positioned now, before demand fully peaks, will own that market. March is the time to plant tubers. Harvest comes in fall. The wait is worth it. Crop number 14. Wasabi arugula. Standard arugula is already a strong seller. Wasabi arugula takes everything that makes arugula popular, the peppery bite, the fast growth, the cut-and-come-again productivity, and turns the heat up dramatically. The flavor hits like a mild wasabi, which makes it extraordinary in salads, on pizzas, and as a garnish for sushi-inspired dishes. Chefs who taste it immediately want it on their menu. Farmers market customers who sample it buy on the spot. It grows just as easily as standard arugula, starts perfectly in March's cool soil, and commands prices that regular arugula simply cannot reach. Same effort. Significantly higher return. Crop number 15. Saffron crocus. This is the one. The crop I almost didn't include, because the growers who understand it guard this knowledge carefully. Saffron is the most expensive spice on earth by weight, selling for $5,000 to $10,000 per pound. And here is what most people don't know: it is not difficult to grow. It is just tedious to harvest. The saffron crocus produces its threads in autumn, but the corms must go into the ground in late winter to early spring to establish their root systems before dormancy. That means March is your planting window. Miss it, and you wait another full year. A small 10 by 10 bed, properly planted and tended, can produce saffron worth hundreds of dollars at harvest. Scale it to a quarter acre and you are in a completely different financial conversation. This is not a hobby crop. This is a wealth crop, hiding in plain sight. And now, the one you've been waiting for. I told you at the very beginning of this video to stay until the end. I told you crop number 15 was different. And I meant it. Crop number 15. Saffron. I know what you're thinking. Saffron? The spice? Yes. And here is why this single crop quietly turns ordinary gardeners into people who no longer worry about what their garden costs them, but what it pays them. Saffron is the most expensive crop on the planet by weight. Not in a specific region. Not in a niche market. On the planet. It sells for between $10 and $20 per gram at retail. That is anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per pound. Restaurants pay premium prices for locally sourced saffron without hesitation. Specialty grocers cannot keep it stocked. And the demand is accelerating every single year as home cooks and chefs alike shift toward natural, locally grown ingredients. Here's what nobody in the gardening world tells you: saffron crocus bulbs, called corms, go into the ground in the fall. But March is your last call to source quality corms, plan your beds, and prepare the exact soil conditions that will determine your yield come harvest time. Miss this preparation window, and your fall planting produces a fraction of what it could. 1 acre of saffron, properly planted and harvested, can yield between 3 and 5 pounds of dried saffron threads. At $5,000 per pound, you do the math. But here's the part that makes this even more powerful for the small grower: you don't need an acre. A single 10 by 10 bed, managed correctly, can produce a yield that sells for hundreds of dollars. No heavy equipment. No expensive inputs. Just well-drained soil, full sun, and patience. Saffron crocus is also drought-tolerant once established, virtually pest-resistant, and perennial, meaning the corms multiply underground every single year. You plant once. You harvest for years. The harvesting itself is simple, though it requires care. Each flower produces just 3 red stigmas, those are the saffron threads. You pick them by hand, in the morning, before the flower fully opens. It is delicate work. But it is also the reason the market price never collapses. It cannot be industrialized at small scale. That is your advantage. Ancient Persian farmers built entire regional economies on this crop. Modern specialty growers in the United States, the UK, and Australia are quietly doing the same thing, selling directly to restaurants, at farmers' markets, and online, at prices that make every other crop on this list look ordinary by comparison. Saffron is not a gamble. It is a long game. And March is exactly when that game begins. Start sourcing your corms now. Prepare your beds now. Because the growers who move first always win. These 15 crops are more than just plants. They are a decision. A declaration that your land, no matter how small, is going to work for you this year, not the other way around. Think about what most people do with a backyard. They mow it. They water it. They spend money on it every single season and walk away with nothing but a slightly tidier patch of grass. Meanwhile, the people who understand what soil is truly capable of, they're loading up market tables, filling restaurant orders, and reinvesting profits into more beds, more crops, more seasons. That gap isn't talent. It isn't land size. It isn't equipment. It's knowledge. And now you have it. Every single crop on this list was chosen for the same reason, because it sits at the intersection of high demand and low supply. Not because it's rare or impossible to grow, but because most gardeners simply don't know to plant it. That information gap is your advantage. And March is the moment you step into it. Here's what I want you to remember most from this video: profitability in the garden is not about working harder. It's about choosing better. One bed of the right crop, planted at the right time, will outperform 10 beds of the wrong one. You now know which crops are worth your soil, your water, and your time. The farmers who change their lives with a garden, and they exist, they are real people on modest plots of land. They didn't find a secret. They found a rhythm. Plant what's in demand. Plant it at the right time. Tend it with intention. And repeat. That rhythm starts in March. It starts this week. It starts with the seeds you order today and the beds you prepare tomorrow morning. Nature rewards the people who show up early. The soil doesn't care about your plans or your intentions, it only responds to action. And the window you have right now, in these early weeks of March, is one of the most powerful planting opportunities of the entire year. Don't let it close while you're still thinking about it. Pick 2 or 3 crops from this list that excite you. Start there. You don't need all 15 in year 1. You need momentum. You need to see what your land can produce when you give it the right things to grow. Because once you harvest your first bed of something truly profitable, once you see what people will pay for quality, fresh, locally grown produce, you will never look at your garden the same way again. This is what the garden was always meant to be. Not just beautiful. Not just a hobby. Productive. Profitable. Yours. Most gardeners work way harder than they need to. The secret is building systems that let your garden do most of the work. I explain exactly how to do that in my ebook, The Lazy Gardener's 30-Minute Garden. If you want to grow more food and flowers with less effort, check the link in the description and get your copy now. You just discovered 15 of the most profitable crops you can plant this March. And here's what I want you to really sit with for a moment. Every single one of these crops exists right now, in nurseries, in seed catalogs, in online stores, waiting for someone to plant them. Most gardeners will never touch them. Not because they're hard to grow. Not because they're risky. Simply because nobody told them. Now you know. That changes everything. But knowing is only half of it. The other half is doing, and doing it now, while March is still here and the window is still open. Because the gardeners who will be standing at their farmer's market stall this summer, selling out before 10 a.m., watching customers fight over the last bundle. They didn't start in April. They started today. So here's what I need you to do right now. First, hit that like button. It tells me you found this valuable, and it helps this video reach other growers who need this information just as much as you did. Second, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week I bring you practical, profit-focused growing strategies that the mainstream gardening world simply doesn't talk about. If you're serious about turning your garden into something that actually works for you financially, this channel is where you need to be. Third, drop a comment below and tell me, which of these 15 crops are you planting first? I read every single comment. And if enough of you mention the same crop, I'll dedicate an entire video to growing it for maximum profit, seed to sale. And if you know someone, a neighbor, a friend, a family member who's been thinking about starting a garden or taking their backyard more seriously, share this video with them today. Don't let them miss the March window too. The best thing you can do for someone you care about is hand them information that could genuinely change their season. One last thing before you go. What you watched today isn't just a list of plants. It's a blueprint. A way of thinking about your land, your time, and your effort differently. Every square foot of your garden is either working for you or it isn't. These 15 crops make it work. The soil is ready. The season is open. The only question now is whether you're going to act on this, or come back next March wishing you had. I'll see you in the next video.